If you're listening to today's podcast, chances are you already know a lot about what your body needs. And you know you should eat regular meals. You know you need better sleep. You know your nervous system needs some regulation. And you know that your boundaries matter. You've read books, you've listened to this podcast, you've taken the courses. So here's the question that you may still be asking yourself. If you know what your body needs, why aren't you doing it? Why do you skip lunch even though you know that later on you're going to crash? Why do you work through your breaks even though you know it's depleting you? Why do you say yes when your body is screaming no? It's not because you're lazy. It's not because you lack discipline. And it's not because you don't care. It's because information does not equal transformation. Today in the podcast, we're going to talk about the implementation gap, why just do it doesn't work anymore when you're very tired and you're over functioning, and what actually does. And this is the episode for everyone who's tired of knowing what to do, but not actually doing it. So let's dive in. Okay, so last week I had talked about my streak of nervous system tools. I'm actually up to day 40 as of today of this recording. And so, a question that I had is to myself, I asked myself this question is how many times did I know I needed to do nervous system work, but I simply didn't? And the truth is, like, lots of times. I don't have the amount of times I didn't track that because that's not a fun thing to track. But I did track how many days in a row I've been doing my nervous system regulation. But why didn't I do it consistently before? I was still doing it, but maybe not every single day or not every single morning. It wasn't that ritual practice of who I was. And the truth is, because in the moment, there always feels something that is more important. There's always a fire to put out. There's always a client to take care of. There's always a kid that needs something. There's always a dog that's puking on the floor. There is something more urgent than taking care of my own nervous system. And to be truthful, now that I'm saying this out loud, is that I also was very conditioned that were certain things were far more important than my stress and my nervous system. One of those being workouts. And because I was very much so conditioned by the diet industry, by past coaches, programs about metabolic health, my own learning about metabolic health, all of that, that your workout has to be done right away in the morning. If you don't do your workout right away in the morning, you're lazy. You're not going to get it done later. It's not a priority. And so then I would be like, oh, I have to do this thing because it feels like a fire, right? It feels like that's something that somebody told me is so much more important than my stress and my nervous system. And so that internal dialogue is like, this isn't the biggest problem that I have right now. And there's really this underlying story as well is that I'm either in a flight state where I'm running away from myself, keeping busy so that I didn't have to slow down, feel what I was feeling, which is very classic to getting that workout done right away in the morning. Also, just so you know, I'm not saying don't do your workouts. I'm just relaying to you internal dialogues that might sound similar to what you maybe tell yourself. I'm also often in a fawn state, especially as a mom, that's so easy to fall into, taking care of other things, taking care of other people, anything except myself, right? It's really distracting and it feels really good to take care of others as well. But most often, I'm in what's called a functional freeze. And this is when you're functioning, you're working, you're producing, you're getting things done, but you're not actually doing the thing that moves the needle on what really needs to be moved right now. You're not taking care of your nervous system so your body feels safe and secure. You're not doing the things that would allow you to follow through with everything else when you know what you need to do. So you're high functioning, you're doing the things to the outside world, you're killing it, but you're really in this frozen state where the patterns keep you depleted. The thing that you keep doing is keeping you in this very stuck state. So, what was the difference about the times I tried to implement nervous system work before versus now when it's really starting to stick? And this is about identity. Before, I was really tied to old ways of thinking, old ways of doing. I didn't truly believe that maybe nervous system work would change who I am and how my body functions. Now I'm embodied in nervous system work. It's part of who I am. It's part of me taking care of my body. Just like at one point, part of me taking care of my body was showing up for the strength training workouts consistently, logging my food, eating my protein. At one point, that stuff was really hard. And eventually, that just became my identity. And that's what true human evolution is. It's slowly moving out of one identity into the next identity and being willing to leave an old identity behind. Even though our body and our nervous system would really prefer that we stay where we are. Because staying where we are is what our body and our nervous system perceives as true safety. But that's not really the safety and the evolution of us as humans. That's not the safety of living at our highest potential. So let's talk about why you, a high achieving woman, you collect so much information, right? You read the books, you take the courses, you listen to the podcast, but maybe you struggle to implement it. The real function of all that information gathering is that knowing embraces both the power that we have the knowledge inside of our brain, right? We have it. And it also makes us feel like we're doing something because it takes up time and energy. And I can speak from personal experience here. I love to know this stuff. You'll always find me like learning something new. I'm always collecting information. I'm always reading and finding new ways to think and be. But the real work comes in the function of follow through and the right actions from that knowledge. Because we don't ever change if we don't ever actually do anything different. We don't change by knowing more. The truth is that many times that right action means we'll probably fail a few times before we find the action that really gives us the result that we want. And so what keeps us from following through, what keeps us from knowing but not doing is that fear of failure, the fear of falling flat on our face, the fear of feeling a certain way from our failure. And information feels very safe, but implementation feels very risky. I've had so many clients who knew everything, but it's like you can't consistently execute. They would tell me exactly what they know their body needs or they know they should do. They understood the science. They understood the why behind it. They had all the tools, but the follow through just wasn't there. And what's really going on there is that protection. The protection of old identity, the protection of the familiar. Our nervous system tries so hard to keep us the same. It doesn't want us to change because it knows that change comes with the unknown. And anything unknown to the nervous system is danger. And we consciously know in our mind that it's not actually danger, right? We can think out the process, like, I'll be fine. I'm going to survive this. It's a survivable danger, but that doesn't really matter to our nervous system. So let's talk about the nervous system science here, because that's really where it's important. We do want to know why our body does what it does. Because when we know better, we can kind of outthink that nervous system and those survival instincts. Your nervous system resists change, even positive change, because change equals unknown. Unknown equals danger. It doesn't matter that this change would make you feel better. It doesn't matter that you consciously want that you say that you want that. Your nervous system job is to keep you alive. And it does that by keeping you in a familiar pattern. The nervous system is going to hold tight onto not changing. And it will show up as what we know as like classic self-sabotage behaviors, starting and then stopping, blaming circumstances, making things harder than they really are, finding excuses, finding reasons. These are all just ways that our body and our mind rationalize why we can't change. It's not that you're weak. It's not that you don't have discipline. It's not that you don't have willpower. You have all of those. It's that your nervous system is doing its job, protecting you from the unknown. And while we're at it, let's talk about those states of depletion, right? So if you're stressed, if you're overwhelmed, if your nutritional intake is not so great, if your sleep is low, you will be in one of those states, the sympathetic, so a fight or flight state. This is where you're go, go, go all the time. You're wired and tired. It's hard to calm down. You're putting out fires all day long. You're in go mode because you literally can't sit down to do nothing because the nothing feels so unsafe and unfamiliar. This is somebody who I'll be like, listen, you got to take some rest. You got to say no to things. You have to have a weekend where you like allow yourself to rot on the couch and watch Netflix and say no, or go to a hotel room and just check out and turn your phone off and have a weekend of quiet and just being. And when I say that, it's like that puts you into another nervous system state because it feels so scary to rest. It feels so scary to be alone and by yourself. And this is somebody who your cortisol is going to be high all the time. And when we're talking about like adrenal fatigue and adrenal burnout, this is going to be like your phase 1 and your phase 2. You're functioning, you're still doing the things, but you're just really good at ignoring and pushing past that body. And then we have the other state of depletion, and this is like your dorsal low functioning shutdown state. And this is where everything feels very hard. You have no energy to do anything. This is the body knowing that resources are very limited. Your body makes it impossible to ignore the fact that you need to rest. When I look at someone's labs, when we do a Dutch test and their cortisol is very low all day long, we know that she's in a state of a very protective state. And what we would say is like adrenal fatigue phase 3. And this is when everything feels like you're just moving through mud. I have been here. I remember at 4 p.m. every single day, it was like emptying the dishwasher was lifting 30-pound plates. It felt like cooking dinner was like the hardest thing I had to do that day. Like having a weighted vest on me that weighed just as much as my body, and everything felt so hard. So that this sounds like you, my biggest piece of advice for you is get some labs done. Check your cortisol. Don't do it with a lab work. Get your blood drawn. That is not the way we want to measure cortisol. Do saliva, do urine. I'd love to help you with this. Just reach out to me through my website or Instagram, and we should run some labs on you because this is not a state that you want to stay in. But when you're in this state, you can see why willpower doesn't work so well, right? You can't just think or push your way through anymore because you're in a survival state. When your nervous system is chronically dysregulated, whether you're in that high functioning state of cortisol being pushed out all the time and you can't sit down and you can't relax, or you're in the other state when you're so tired all the time and everything feels so hard, you really can't outthink survival at that time. Your body takes over. It's going to make sure that you're functioning in a certain way, whether that's hyper productivity because that feels very productive, or laying flat on your back because you're so tired you can hardly function. Sleeping a lot, but never actually feeling rested, needing a nap during the day just to get through, like falling asleep in the school pickup line. Of course, you can't willpower your way through those things anymore because your body's just not going to let you. Your body has so much wisdom and it's full of information. It knows exactly what you need. And if you don't listen to it, it's going to force you into that need. And that's why it feels very hard to do things when you consciously know better. This is your body functioning at its highest state of wisdom and survival. So one thing we know is that your nervous system prefers familiar discomfort over unfamiliar ease. Your body would rather stay in the hell that it knows than move toward a heaven it doesn't. It doesn't make sense. But it does this because it wants to always find the path of least resistance and conserve energy. If you're listening to this and you maybe have weight loss resistance, or you're questioning why you're always tired, these all go hand in hand. I want you to see how it's connecting the dots. Weight loss resistance is your body at the ultimate state of conservation of energy. When it comes to nervous system choosing familiar discomfort over unfamiliar ease, it's going to find a way to conserve energy. It knows familiar discomfort. It knows that path. It doesn't need to use excess energy to figure it out. It doesn't need to use excess energy to think ahead or to go through XYZ scenarios. That takes energy. But unfamiliar ease requires excess energy to figure out all of this. So your nervous system is always going to push you into the knowing what to expect, so it doesn't have to use more energy than it wants to use in that scenario, even if what you expect is depletion. And here's the part that might feel even more annoying to hear. Depletion, chronic fatigue, wanting to nap, sleeping all the time, feeling like you're walking through mud becomes a familiar state that the nervous system actually wants to maintain, even though it feels terrible. So why does your body keep choosing it? It chooses it because the state of being very tired, not having energy, not having focus keeps you very safe. It protects the body, and the body is always interested in protection. If it can keep you from being if it can keep you from being seen, from making money, from being out there and possibly failing, from putting yourself in a vulnerable position, then it's doing your job of keeping you very safe. Your depletion is protecting you from visibility, from growth, from risk, and from failure. And your nervous system thinks it's doing you a favor. So, what's the difference between consciously wanting something like more capacity? So, your nervous system is feeling safe enough to allow it, to allow maybe more business revenue, more time with your family, whatever the thing is to create more of in your life. This difference is not pushing and not rushing. We want to get there right away because we think once we get there, then we'll feel good. That's not what happens. Yeah, you'll feel probably better, but what we want to work on is being that person right now that has the capacity or has the goal that you want to have. This is especially great time to listen to this at this time of year because we're thinking about 2026. Wait, who do I want to be in 2026? What do I want to have more? What do I want to achieve? The goal isn't to think about that goal ahead of yourself. It's to think about it as in now. And the difference is being able to lean back and to allow that to come to you and not to be a head down forward pushing process, but more of a feminine leaning back process and allowing yourself to become that person who has the said goal right now. It looks like patience. It looks like time. Because in the patience, in the time, what happens is you actually develop the skill that you're wanting to have. If it's having more body capacity, you're developing the skill of what it feels like in your body to have more capacity. You're developing the skill in your body to be able to create more energy, more consistent, reliable energy. We want to rush the process. We want to feel better right now. We just want the growth right now. We want the revenue right now. But the truth is, we have to learn how to become that person in the process. Consciously, you want more capacity. You want more energy. You want to feel better. But your nervous system has to actually feel safe enough to allow those changes. You can't force your way into a regulated nervous system. You can't willpower your way into more capacity. What you can do is create small, consistent practices that signal safety to your body and then trust the timeline. The skill you're developing isn't just doing the thing, it's learning what capacity actually feels like in your body. You're teaching your nervous system that it's safe to have more energy, to feel better, and to stop living in survival mode. And that takes patience, consistency, and trusting that the transformation is happening even when you can't see it yet. Although, time is relative. It can happen in a week. We don't actually get to determine the amount of time. The time will simply happen. And that's the process of learning to lean back and allow. So let's start with a small practice to start with when it comes to nervous system regulation. Something realistic of somebody who is feeling like my nervous system does feel like it's always running on the edge of I'm go, 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 go all the time. I can't settle down, or I'm chronically tired and I can't create energy. I personally love the butterfly tapping exercise. You can even do it in your car. So if you're in your car and you're listening and you're driving, keeping one hand on the steering wheel. The other hand, I want you to put into a shape of a C. And then go ahead and touch on your collarbone and you'll tap from left to right. So one side will be your thumb. The other side will be the other fingers on the other side of your collarbone because you're in a C shape. And you just tap left to right and left to right. And you do that while you're driving. Don't close your eyes, watch the road. But think about how your body starts to all of a sudden feel a little more grounded. You start to feel maybe a little bit more of a pull towards the earth, a little bit more of like that gravitational anchoring in your body. And if you're not driving, something you can do is cross your hands over each shoulder. So there's an X across the front of your body, and you slowly tap from left to right. And you're doing the same thing. You're just making more of an impact because you're taking up more space on the front side of your body. But these are both really easy ways to just in the moment start to tell your body that it's safe and start to signal to your nervous system it's okay to regulate. It's okay to find some tone in that vagal nerve. And you'll start to feel your body just to simply calm down. And we tend to think nervous system regulation is this big uphill battle, or it's all of this work that you have to do up front. It's simply signaling to your body in the moment that it's safe. And that's one of the easiest ways to do that. And this is one of the things that I'm going to be teaching you outside of some more nervous system regulation, not just the doing, but the actual embodying, understanding of why your nervous system is functioning the way it is and how to work with our nervous system so it allows us to have more of what we want in this life, whether in our business, in our work, in our health, in our family life, in the upcoming workshop from Overworked to Optimized. It's going to be on January 6th, 7, and 8 at noon. You will get replays because this is a paid workshop. It's $33. You will get the replays if you can't come live. But inside of this workshop, we're going to be doing the nervous system foundations, kind of like what I just taught you, very simple, doable, implementable ways to bring some of that nervous system in your day-to-day. The second thing I'm going to teach you is nutrition for a regulated nervous system. The nourishment of your body is also going to go over into the nourishment of your nervous system. They go hand in hand. We can't regulate a nervous system with a body that's malnourished, that isn't getting what it needs. So we're going to talk about nourishment and how to eat for your day-to-day. So you have focus, so you have energy, so you have hormonal balance. And the third day is the integration and the implementation of all of this. So how do we make sure that we have boundaries set in place to be able to do the things that we know that create the consistent energy? Because I can tell you what to do, but if we don't have strategies built in, that you actually have the time capacity, the boundary capacity to be able to implement them, I'm just feeding you more information. We want to actually embody these practices that I'm going to be teaching you over the 3 days so that now you really do build that capacity that you're looking for in 2026. So here's what I want you to take away from this episode. First of all, information does not equal transformation. You can know exactly what your body needs and still not do it, right? You've done it time and time again. Not because you're lazy, but because your nervous system isn't doing its job. Not because the circumstances aren't set up purposely, because your nervous system is trying to protect you, trying to keep you in familiar patterns, even when those patterns are working against you. And willpower does not work when you're dysregulated. We can't just try harder anymore. We can't just do it. We can't just think our way through when our body's in survival mode. What works is understanding how your nervous system operates, work with it instead of against it, and build capacity through small, consistent practices. No massive overhauls, no willpower, but signaling safety to our body day after day, one thing at a time. And pretty soon when we look back, now all of a sudden we've built something amazing because our body is so healthy and energized. If you're ready to close that gap between knowing and doing, I want to see you inside of the workshop from Overworked to Optimized. And we're going to make 2020 a year you stop collecting strategies and information, and we actually start building what you want in the next year. All right, my friends, head to the show notes to sign up for the workshop. You can also go to my website, mindfullywell.com/optimized, and sign up there. All right, my friends, we're going to be off next week for the holiday, but I'll see you in 2 weeks. Bye-bye.